We're really lucky to have LD18 chair and president emeritus of Democrats of Greater Tucson, Larry Bodine. Larry will talk about the great work and projects planned in LD18 for electing Democrats in the city of Tucson elections of this year and helping to capture a majority in the state legislature in 2024. Larry is a Democratic activist, retired lawyer and journalist. He was elected chair of LD18 in November 2022. LD18 is the bluest legislative district in the state of Arizona. It's the bluest Democratic district in the bluest county of Pima. And there's nearly 200 precinct committee people. Among LD18's initiatives are building community and camaraderie with big in-person social events, like the January Winter Blast at Brother John's and the recent St. Patrick's Day party that attracted 125 attendees and raised $3,500 after expenses. Planning a task force to attract young Gen Z voters, 70% of whom voted for Democrats in 2022. Canvassing to support Democratic candidates in the Tucson elections for mayor and city council after the August 1st primary. Targeting 325 newly registered Democrats with a welcome postcard and 500 Mission for Arizona volunteers in the 2020 election. We're going to hear about Larry's predictions for the 2024 presidential election, the 2024 Arizona legislation election, and does Donald Trump really dye his hair? And we have a red alert. This happened just last week. MAGAs attacking school boards. Larry Previous was chair of Democrats of Greater Tucson for 3 years. He has been an elected Democratic precinct committeeman in Illinois and Arizona, starting with the 2006 Tammy Duckworth campaign. She is now a U.S. Senator. He has been a writer for Blog for Arizona since 2017, writing more than 400 articles. Let's give Larry a real warm Democrats of Greater Tucson welcome. Larry.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Joe. I thought what I would do would be to focus on sort of some big picture items that are going on in the country and see if people agree or disagree with how I think things are going. And then I'm going to narrow it down to what's happening right in LD18, specifically Catalina Foothills High School. So for the moment, grab a pencil if you would, and I'd like you to write something down. And that is a date, Tuesday, April 11, that's this coming Tuesday at 5 p.m. So that's the date I want you to keep in mind. So turning to the 2020 presidential primary, it's always, amusing to see what the Republicans are up to. And I think if the primary were held today, they would definitely nominate Trump. And that's good news for us Democrats because he is wildly unpopular with the general public. He's caused the Republicans to lose elections in 2018, 2020, 2022, and he'll do it again in 2024, especially if he picks Carrie Lake to be his running mate. She is running for vice president, going out to Iowa, garnering votes. And once again, she's claiming election fraud. So basically, we're getting nothing new from the Republicans and just a lot of noise. So to look at the country nationwide, 54% of Americans have a negative view of Trump, and only 34% of Americans have a positive view of him. But the key thing is, among the Republican voters, and this is hard to believe, 70% of Republicans say that they have a good opinion of Trump and they view him as a defiant public hero. And they're saying that the 34 felony indictments actually gave Trump a wonderful fundraising hook, and it boosted his popularity with Republicans. However, the group that we need to focus on are the independents, as always. They're about a third of the voters in the state, and only 25% of them have a positive view of Trump. They don't want a candidate who is facing 34 felonies, and 62% of independents have a negative view of Trump. So, and even Trump's former attorney general says if Trump runs, he'll lose to Biden. And I would agree with that. For once, Bill Barr is right. If Trump runs, I think he'll get the nomination and he'll lose badly at the polls. Now, who is going to be the Democratic candidate? At the moment, everybody's waiting to hear from Joe Biden, but there's something interesting I've noticed out of California, and that is their governor, Gavin Newsom, who I predict will be a presidential candidate in 2024, and if not, then certainly the following election. And here's why. He has $10 million in campaign funds, and he formed a PAC called the Campaign for Democracy. And the idea is to flip the MAGA narrative. And he just made a nationwide tour, a red state tour of Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Florida. Talked to Democrats there. He went to Tennessee to help the 2 Black representatives who were kicked out of the legislature. And Gavin Newsom regularly attacks Ron DeSantis. So why would a California governor be so interested in what's going on in all these other states? So they say if it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. And if it looks like a presidential campaign, it probably is. So real quickly, let me jump to the US Senate race, which is always amusing. Sinema has always announced that she is running as an independent, which is great for Democrats because she's going to be a spoiler. She's going to draw away votes from Republicans who are just not going to want to vote for somebody like, let's see who's running. Carrie Lake might run for U.S. Senate. You never know which opportunity she'll pounce on. And Blake Masters is interested in running for Senate. And these people both have right-wing, radical right-wing agendas, and they're not going to go very far. So at the moment, it looks like Ruben Gallego is going to be the Democratic candidate. He's leading in all the polls against all of the other potential candidates. And he draws a wonderful contrast to a new fringe candidate from the Republican Party, and that's Sheriff Mark Lamb. He is in Pinal, and he thinks, he's a constitutional sheriff, which means that he doesn't have to enforce any federal laws or state laws or any laws because the sheriffs can do whatever they want. So we'll see how far that gets with Arizona voters. And let's take a minute and look at 2024 from our state legislature's point of view. I'm happy to say I'm really optimistic that the Democrats will flip the Arizona Senate at the very least. This is more good news for Democrats. And actually, there are 3 crucial races taking place right here in Tucson. One is in LD18, where they have Senator Justine Wadzak. She's very vulnerable. This is a district that has a plus 9% Republican registration, yet she only won by about 2,000 votes out of 74,000 cast. She's a weak candidate. And the Democrats have this wonderful new candidate for Senate in LD17, and it's a woman by the name of Amy Fitch Heacock. She is co-founder of the Tucson Women's March and co-founder of Arizonans for Reproductive Freedom. I think you're going to agree that abortion is still a very hot issue to help elect Democratic candidates. So Amy Fitchcock her organization is sponsoring a ballot initiative that would amend the state constitution to make abortion a legal right. So there's a lot to like about her. Keep an eye out for Amy Fitch-Heacock. Another district is LD18, which is in Pima and also Pinal counties. There's a 2% GOP advantage there, and the Democrats recently gained a House seat when they elected Keith Seaman. And the incumbent Republican is some yahoo who likes to wear these, not just a cowboy hat, but a giant cowboy hat, you know, and he's one of these guys who's clearly all hat and no cattle. And I think there's a strong possibility the Democrats will find a candidate who can oust Senator T.J. Shope and put in a Democrat. Now in LD23, now that's a district that has a 12.5% Democratic advantage. Yet somehow candidate Jesus Lugo lost as a Democrat in a district with 12% Democratic advantage. And the other Republican who won is Michelle Pina, and she only won by 3,000 votes, also out of 74,000 cast. So those are all key districts that Pima County Democratic Party is targeting. And of course, what we're doing in LD18 is if any other LD needs our help, or if there's any way we can share how we did something that got a good result, we are happy to do that. So LD18 supports the sort of the pending Pima County Democratic Party, which is called Project Blue Arizona. And that involves registering young blue voters, reaching out to new Democratic residents, and engaging with the Tohono O'odham and Pascua Yaqui tribes. I had a fun moment about a week ago when I got an interview from a Arizona Republic reporter. She wanted to know what I thought about Katie Hobbs, Governor Katie Hobbs' first 100 days. And I said, they've been spectacular. They've just been fantastic. So this is what happens when Democrats get out there and work in the elections. She has had up to 37 vetoes this year, all of it right-wing, Republican balderdash. And she's catching up on Janet Napolitano's record of 58 vetoes, and I think she'll beat it. She's become a moderate voice of reason that we really so desperately need in the wake of all these stolen election whispers. And she is a soothingly sane alternative to all the impending chaos that the Republicans promise. And she's why we need to keep electing Democrats. So let's whittle it down to what's going on in LD18. We get a lot done in LD18, and the credit goes to our awesome LD18 board because we just love working as a team. It's the no drama LD. Let's see. Back to bragging. I want to just show off how good a board can be. A lot of people say, oh, the Democrats don't know what they're doing. They're disorganized. And that's not the case in LD18. I would point to Diane Coscarelli. She's our second vice chair. She's an attorney and a really smart one and has a great eye for details. And then we've got Maggie Winchell, who is our treasurer. She is an inactive CPA and really knows what she's doing. Margaret Lacey is our recording secretary. Monica Winuk is our corresponding secretary. She used to be in charge of a natural resources division for a state. Oh, and back to Margaret, she's a retired air traffic control specialist. So all these people have had good professional lives. And then Lori Cinnamon, who can see in the dark when it comes to data and strategy. She's the one who comes up with a lot of our messaging and the things that we mail to voters. And then, of course, Patricia Weedhoff, who is also the chair of the Tanque Verde Democrats. So we've got a lot to be proud of in LD18. So here are some of the things that we've been doing, and Joe mentioned about that. And I wanted to start out this year, because there's no election, with party building and community building by holding big social events. Because if you go to an event and you get a chance to meet Democrats and talk to them and hear the speakers, I think you'll want to become active. So we had the Winter Blast Party in January, We had 100 people and raised some money for Adrian Fontes. And then we had our recent St. Patrick's Day lunch. It's the Cunningham family St. Patrick's Day party, potluck, and fundraiser. And we did raise funds. We raised about $3,500, and that's after expenses. Now, where we are at the moment is the board and I are contemplating a task force to attract young Gen Z voters, 70% of whom voted as Democrats nationwide in 2022. And LD18 had John Della Volpe speak. He's from Harvard, and he basically says that the young people are the future for the Democratic Party, but they've had very different life experiences than you and I have had. I remember being traumatized by the JFK assassination, the Martin Luther King assassination, the Bobby Kennedy assassination. I thought the country was coming apart at the seams. Gen Z has no firsthand recollection of that, or 9/11. They've been traumatized by the election of Trump after having Obama, all the school shootings that are going on, climate change. We'll be long gone and, in the next life, but they're going to have to face climate change here on Earth. So we've also got plans to canvass and get out the vote in Tucson's elections. The primary is on August 1st, and after that is when we're going to start to get active. And there are 2 wards that are in LD18. One is Ward 4, where we want to re-elect Nikki Lee. She's fantastic. And then in Ward 2, we have Paul Cunningham. He is also running for re-election, and you got a chance to see him recently on DGT. And as Joe mentioned, we are targeting registered Democrats. Thanks to Lori Cinnamon, we have a lovely postcard campaign. And gosh, I just had one here I wanted to hold up and show you. In any event, it's an amazing postcard. It was sent to 325 registered Democrats with a welcome title on it saying, join the party. And then we also Lori found 500 Mission for Arizona volunteers who are from LD18. So we are trying to get in touch with them with a postcard that says, thanks for volunteering. So to win, Democrats must become activists. Politics is not an entertainment sport. This is real life. And I've been an activist since I was a kid. I always wanted to make a positive difference in society. And I was also spurred on by the saying that, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. So I wasn't going to be somebody who does nothing. Now, if you go to the LD18 website, you'll see 27 ways to get active. You can knock on doors. You can drive people to knock on doors. You can stab a table at an event. You can make phone calls. Or what I love doing is hosting house parties. A house party I hosted in 2006 was for a young congressional Democratic candidate who had low name recognition. So we held a bunch of house parties, and unfortunately she lost that election. But then she came back and got elected to the US Senate. And of course, I'm talking about Tammy Duckworth. So Tammy Duckworth was in my house. She's a disabled veteran, so I put up the handicapped only parking instructions. And, I feel that doing that was just something that you can do. Was helping get a really good elected person into office. Let me turn now to what's happening directly here in LD18. What I want to share with you is that a massive crowd organized by the Pima County GOP disrupted the Catalina Foothills School Board meeting on April 4. Most of the speakers, and there were 42 of them, were from a church or a cult based in Marana with a second place in Tanque Verde. And they came out and quoted the Bible about how terrible trans kids were. And, the school is letting trans girls who were boys into the locker rooms and dressing rooms of girls. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's just another blatant falsehood that they keep repeating, hoping that it'll gain some traction. And they have targeted the next meeting of the school board for Catalina Foothills School District. It's going to be on Thursday, April 11, and that's why I asked you to write it down. And PCDP and I are calling on all good Democrats to stand up for the trans kids, the parents, and the school board members that we elected by peacefully attending the meeting. Here's the trick. You got to get there by 5 p.m. Meeting doesn't start until about an hour later, but get there at 5. It's on 3435 Sunrise Drive, which is the Valley View Learning Center. And when you drive up the driveway, drive to the back, because that's going to be the entrance to the meeting. And very important, wear a royal blue shirt. That's the school color. And when the room fills with blue shirts, the moms and dads, some of whom are trans, some of whom have trans kids, will see the blue shirt and know that it's safe to sit next to them. And then bring signs, bring your pride flags. Bring a sign that says trans rights are human rights. I've got it right up on my bulletin board behind me. And what I encourage you to do is sit up front if you wish, and well, definitely sit up front. And if you wish, get a request to speak card and tell people, tell the board how pleased you are with them, what a terrific job they're doing. I looked up the Catalina Foothills School District, and it's the #1 academically rated school district in Arizona. And we need to protect that. Many of you who live in the district got an email from me earlier today, but if anybody's interested in going out and supporting the school board, I heartily invite you to attend, and I would look forward to seeing you. And with that, let me turn it over to everybody who's here today for questions, comments, and I'll leave that up. Joe, you and Mike can choose who you want.
Okay, such a deal. So let's go ahead and we'll start with Steve Linder.
Right, Larry, I just have one question about cinema. You mentioned that you believe that she would siphon off votes from the crazy Republican, whoever that turns out to be. I just worry that she's going to siphon off votes from the Democrat for a number of reasons. One, because of the uninformed voter who just says, "Oh, I know that name. I know that name, Cinema. So I'll vote for her." Well, she's the Democrat, right? And I'm talking about the uninformed, voter who votes for names and other people. So what's your opinion of her siphoning votes from the Democratic side?
Well, I got the idea from just reading Lori Cinnamon's analysis of the gubernatorial race, and a large number of Republicans abandoned Carrie Lake. She was just way too crazy to elect, and Republicans voted for Hobbs, or they voted to stay home. And I think something similar to that would happen with Sinema. And of course, there are a lot of uninformed voters who just sort of say, "Oh, I've heard of Sinema." And that's our job to inform them. It's our job to get out there and put flyers on their doors. It's our job to invite them to informational sessions and tell them just how cinema has been a roadblock to all the progressive climate change fighting, technology building initiatives of Joe Biden, and not to vote for her.
Okay, George Beverly, you have a question.
How you doing, Mr. Larry? Good to see you.
Hey, George, how are you?
All right. I just want to ask a question and make a comment. So, you mentioned about the going to the school board and talking about the LGBTQ community and pushing for Republicans are pushing forth these agendas. And what I noticed about the Democratic Party is when it comes to that community, everybody's very boisterous and they push it. But just maybe, I would say about a month ago, I was trying to, rally people up against a House bill that was going to get rid of ethnic studies within schools. So I was going to the school board by myself, voicing these things, and it doesn't seem like it catches any traction. So my question is what can we do as a Democratic Party to make sure that all protected class peoples are getting an equal fare and an equal shake of support within our state?
Well, George, I'll support you, and I'm sure the LD18 board will support you as well. You know, we're interested in the welfare of all protected classes. At the moment, the trans kids are under a vicious attack, which is why we're having a call to action for that tomorrow. But I know that there are similar issues in your community. Just let us know when and where, and we can also bring out a show of force. You know, a lot of it, depends on if it's an LD18. That's our mandate. That's what we're cut out to do. But if you're getting flack from other areas, like supervisors, which I doubt, or maybe the city council, who knows? Let us know, and we'll come out and support you.
Okay, Mike, you're up.
Yeah, Bridget wondered if you can repeat the names of those Democratic candidates in LD 17, 16, and 23 for her.
Certainly. All right, so in LD 17, we have a terrific candidate and a woman called Amy, and then the middle name Fitch, F-I-T-C-H, Heacock, H-E-A-C-O-C-K. She was co-founder of the Tucson Women's March and co-founder of Arizonans for Reproductive Freedom. I've met her and talked to her, and I was really impressed with how articulate she was, how well thought everything she said was, and just, what a magnetic personality she had.
Yeah, I was also blown away. I met her, and I was surprised at her fundraising goal for the race. $1.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that blows your hair back that a race could cost that much for a state house. But yeah, that's what she's planning on.
Yeah, well, I think she's smart on doing that. I mean, look what happened in Wisconsin with the state Supreme Court. A Democrat was elected to the state Supreme Court, and I think they spent 10 million. Does that sound right to you? Yeah. Elections are getting expensive, and that's why if you can't knock on doors, if you don't want to write postcards, donate to a candidate. But here's my tip: donate to local candidates in your legislative district. Maybe Arizona state races, although I don't think there really will be any in 2024. But keep your money here where it's going to do the most work. One last one, and that is LD23. We have, it's a blue district with a 12.5% Democratic advantage. And I think that's ripe for picking. A Republican got elected. And if we can just find somebody who will run a good campaign and be active and out there with the voters, I think we can get the seat back. But at the moment, there's no candidate that I know of in LD23.
All right. Let's see. Somebody asked, the building. The Dem headquarters building has been sold. In fact, they signed a couple of days ago. And Shirley was wondering if you know where the new headquarters that they're renting is going to be.
Yes, it's going to be in an office building, and I'm going on memory here, that is going to be at Speedway and Tucson Boulevard. And there'll be plenty of parking. They will also have a couple of big conference rooms available so that it can be a place to hold meetings again. And I believe, well, I know that they've made a lot of preparations to move out, but they've got a free month from the buyer, so they don't have to pay any rent in April. And then in May, I think you'll start to see that, or maybe June, you'll see that new office open.
Okay. Evelyn, you have a question. Nice to see you.
I always come to you when I can.
Hey,
Now,
Evelyn.
I sent you an email inviting you to my meeting Wednesday night because you're always absolutely amazing. This woman, Amy, is unbelievable. She's young. She's in her 40s. She has had an interesting life. She was raised as one of the people that are now MAGAs. She has lived that life. She speaks their language, and she's going to knock them out of office. And I see her winning in LD17, but she's going to move up. She's a star, and we're very, very excited to have her. If Larry, if you send me a little brief thing, I'll put it at a action call tonight to my email address, because I have several people who will probably show up for you.
Great, fantastic.
And the office space is going to be great. There'll be a lot of parking. It'll be clean. You won't walk in there and go, ugh. And the money's in the bank and it's done. So it's exciting.
I think so too. You know, it's going to be a nice building. It's going to look professional. And frankly, that's what the Republicans do. They rent office space, you know, somewhere, I don't know, at the corner of Hopeless Street in Bumtown. So,
Oh, Speedway.
you know, we can have a nice office too.
Amazing location for everybody. I mean, we're around, it's like maybe 12 minutes to get down there.
Yeah.
And you guys, same thing because of the highway. So it's good things are happening.
Wonderful. And let's see, as always, the chat room just has a lot of good information flowing back and forth. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, please do. Mike, are there any more questions or?
Karen Gleason wonders if you can maybe put something in the chat or a link for the school board rally tomorrow, so that she came in late and didn't catch that.
Absolutely. You know, when there's a little break in the action, I'll include that.
Right. So I do have a question of my own. I mean,
Sure.
what was or is the most surprising thing about running or leading an LD that you did not expect when you ran for the position?
I didn't realize how many meetings I would have to go to. You know, the board has a couple of meetings. Pima County has meetings. We have meetings with our territory leaders. There's just a lot of, you know, good talk back and forth. I get along well with Eric Robbins, the chair at Pima County Democratic Party. They have a ton of meetings. And I'm going to that Desert Bloom fundraiser that they're holding out at the casino. And
Next Sunday.
yeah, it's a good thing I'm retired, because, you know, this is a 7-day-a-week job, but, you know, come on, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to get active, and so things worked out.
Yeah, I got to say, Larry, you're a little naive if you thought there weren't going to be a ton of meetings.
Okay, well, let's see. And we've really covered a lot of good ground, and Susie Anderson has her hand up.
Hi
Hello,
there,
Susie.
Larry. It's so good to see you.
Oh, so good to see you too.
Thank you. How many young people are getting involved in your LD? You know, I'm old. I'm
No.
getting tired. Yeah.
You can
And,
smell it.
you know, and I know a lot of the kids, my grandnephews and grandnieces' ages, don't seem to be particularly interested in politics. Are you seeing any gravitational pull toward politics for any other young groups?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was at a fundraiser, and it was a bunch of people in our generation. And I looked around and I thought, I'm going to find the youngest person here. And so I went up to this really charming kid who was, you know, overdressed in a white shirt and tie and a blue blazer, and everybody else was in jeans. He was looking a little uncomfortable. So I walked up to him and said, so what brings you here? Tell me what you're active in. You know, why are you coming to a Democratic fundraiser? And it turns out he is a member of Arizona Divest, or run a U of A divest, get out of fossil fuels, and a campus environmental group. And he spoke at our last LD18 meeting. And I think what that illustrates is there are young people that are doing good things. We just have to find them and reach out to them.
Yeah.
So for instance, if you're at a big gathering, walk up to the youngest person, just as I did, and get a conversation started. My colleague Lori Cinnamon, hey Lori, and I met with a guy called Lance Ussery. He is a young precinct committee person. He's 40, but that's young enough. And we're contemplating somehow getting him involved in the outreach, because one thing we got from that guy Della Volpe speaking is, we have the right message, affordable housing, the right to, reproductive rights, access to healthcare. These are the things that the young generation is in favor of, but they want to hear it from their voices, from their messenger, which means that, we have to go to them. And at the last LD18 meeting, while that guy was speaking, I just sent a message into the chat and said, hey, who here was born in 1997? And 4 people responded. So I looked him up and I'm going to try to find some way that we can get them involved. And here's the key thing. You've got to help them. We have to support them in what they are already doing. It's not, hey, we want to recruit you to be a democratic activist. It's like that will come, but we want to work with you and show you which party supports your activities. And I think that'll be pretty persuasive.
There is a big group on there is a group on campus that is very interested in the environment. And I don't know how to get in touch with them. Oh, Barbara Warren, maybe she's got some ideas of how to do that. So
go ahead, Barbara. What's your question?
It's not a question, it's an answer to the question that was just asked.
Okay.
And that is on Earth Day celebration. Well, it's not on Earth Day, but there is an Earth Day celebration on campus on April 19th from 10 to 2. And there will be tabling all over the mall. And these are going to be young people who are interested in supporting a lot of environmental issues, but other things as well, who are helping with the tabling and making this happen. So it's a great place to go to have conversations with them and find out a lot more about what they're up to, what they care about. And I'd say there's a couple of things that they care a lot about in our experience, and that is the climate. And so Earth Day addresses that. And another, if I may, one other issue that I think the young people in particular are concerned about is what's happening internationally with the war, and the fact that there's actual potential threats to use nuclear weapons these days. I heard I had the privilege of listening to Daniel Ellsberg yesterday speak at length about his book and about his work on exposing nuclear weapons. And I want you to know that Raul Grijalva has signed on to a bill in the House called HR 77, House Resolution 77, which is for the abolition of nuclear weapons. And there are others. If you could bring in other federal officials, other representatives and senators to vote for this, maybe we can move this along. It's a big leap, but my organization, we've been working on this for years, many years, but I think it's become, unfortunately, a very significant issue with wars. And that's another thing young people are not only interested in, they're obviously very concerned about in their future on this planet. So just a couple of thoughts.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for sharing, Barbara.
Very
Appreciate
helpful.
it. Okay, Lillian Fox has a question.
Hey, Lillian, how are you?
I'm fine. It's not really a question. I was going to suggest that the Democratic Party ought to have a table there at Earth Day and provide information on how to register to vote, because these young people may not all be registered to vote. And then also provide some basic information about what Democrats stand for.
And could I
Because
just,
it would be much better if
Uh,
they registered as Democrats and as independents, but as long as they register, it's fine.
really good idea. Earth Day is not on April 19th, but it is an Earth Day event. There is an actual Earth Day event also on the weekend at the Children's Museum downtown. I believe that's on Saturday, and I can't figure out the date in my head right now. But so there's 2 Earth Day events where you could be doing this kind of tabling.
Good, good. Thank you so much for the information.
Would that be
Janice
good?
Siegel Storman, you have a question.
Oh, I have an answer to that question as well. So
we're
in the
just
chat,
full of
I put
questions and
information
answers.
about Sustainable Tucson's meeting tomorrow night. It's a Zoom meeting. And so you can follow that link to get to that. And it's on Youth Advocates for Sustainability. And it's 6 o'clock tomorrow night. And I have information there of some of the speakers, but particularly the speaker that woman Students for Sustainability isn't speaking tomorrow, but it's at the U of A campus. That might be who the woman is talking about, or else Garrett Weaver is a member of Tucson Climate Coalition. And they've been very active in working with the city on climate solutions.
Democrats do agree on the same issues as Gen Z voters. And that would include their number one issue is clean air and water. They want to reduce gun violence. They want to guarantee a public education for every child, preserve individual rights, and deal with the mental health crisis that they're going through. So that this just illustrates how what Gen Z wants matches exactly with the issues that the Democrats are advocating. So it's really just a question of I don't know, walk up to the youngest purple in the room, go to an event such as has been mentioned here in this program, and look for young people, start to talk to them, and then find out what they need. And that's how I think you can win them over. And another thing you can do that actually makes a big difference, and I like to do this a lot, is to write letters to the editor. I noticed that many progressive voices are being heard, as well as a couple of completely loony stuff. And so I've had a 50-day streak of getting 4 letters to the editor published. And they saw it was the same guy and they published it anyway. So just to illustrate, let me find it here. The latest letter was headlined, "Columnist was smoking crack in Trump case." And that was columnist Jay Ambrose. And he wrote, whether Trump criminally planned the January 6th Capitol riot has not been overwhelmingly demonstrated. And so I said in the letter, is he smoking crack? Is he drinking brainwashing Kool-Aid? Is he living in a MAGA compound somewhere? How could you make such a bizarre statement? The January 6th committee said in a 160-page report last December that Trump should be charged with 4 crimes, including overthrowing the government. So just to show you a couple of things in there that worked for me, when you're writing a letter to the editor, keep it short. Keep it short, add a twist, say something like something that the editor will think is clever, like, drinking the MAGA Kool-Aid, and then respond to other letters and other issues that give you an emotional reaction. Because if your gut is pushing you forward, you're going to turn out a really good letter. Another one that was fun, it was published on March 6th, and it says, this letter to the editor, a witness testified at a Republican hearing that the state, House, and Senate election committees were guilty of election fraud. And in the letter I wrote, golly, I'm shocked. I'm shocked, yes, shocked to hear this from the Republicans. And it's time for the Senate and House Republicans to call in the cyber ninjas, the Republican Cochise County supervisors, ex-Republican Attorney General Brnovich to investigate all things. And then for good measure, you should also call McGruff the crime dog and Inspector Clouseau And then we'll get to the bottom of all this election fraud business. And
Larry,
Yes.
what newspapers have you been published in with a letter to the editor?
I like the Arizona Daily Star. They devote an entire, well, 3/4 of a page to letters to the editor. So, and they're soliciting letters right now on, the coming water shortage. They're already talking about making people, no more swimming pools being built, no grass in your front yard, and so forth. So this is going to hit home soon.
Well, if people are interested, CEBV, Civic Engagement Beyond Voting .us is a Arizona-based nonprofit, and they do train people in writing letters to the editor. I think the workshops are done by Laura Tarek, one of our wonderful Arizona representatives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Larry,
Susie, do you have a question?
I have noticed in the letters to the editor, how many are from Saddlebrook, Oro Valley, and parts Northwest, even Marana, but they all are not Republican wackos. They seem to be on our side. I'm looking at that area like, well, maybe there is hope yet, even though we've got that ugly person who helped Trump so much up in Saddlebrook or Oro Valley. Yeah.
Mitchum or Watsack?
No, no, Watsak's on the east side. No, sorry, my brain doesn't work.
Bannon.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, yeah, Steve Bannon and his brother. So,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it's just so amazing to me that, there are really thoughtful, well-spoken people in the northwest of Tucson who don't seem to be running off the rails, but there are still a few up there that do.
Oh, I agree totally. They've had the Saddlebrook Democrats have had some fantastic events and speakers. And the one that comes to mind was about a year ago, they had this guy, Frank Figliuzzi, speak. He's a national security commentator. And when I heard about the speech, I called him up. And if you remember, last year we had a fundraiser built around Frank Figliuzzi and his view of what's going on in politics from a national security standpoint. So keep an eye on the Saddlebrook Democrats, of course, the Friends of Marana Friends and Dems, Democrats of Oro Valley, and all of these groups in that part of the state.
Okay. Well, tell you what, great meeting. Let's give Larry a big round of applause for being here today. Lots of good discussion, information, and ideas. So really appreciate it, Larry.
Yes.
And
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure being here, and I look forward to seeing everybody on the campaign trail.